Our very own Jake Ward is sheltering in place as part of a mandate for 9 counties in the San Francisco Bay Area. He gave us a look at what his first 24 hours have been like.
I just drove in from Oakland to downtown San Francisco, where there was plenty of parking ahead of a midnight shelter-in-place order that goes into effect tonight. I'm headed into my office to grab the last few things I'll need for 3 weeks of trying to report the news from home. Our bureau has gone dark. Nobody is coming in for interviews, no guests. We're not doing any of the normal business of reporting the news from here. The whole place is shut down.
I've got, I think, what I need for 3 weeks to try to do this job on my own. I got to a certain point being in here where I just felt nervous being in here this long, and so I decided to put on my N95 mask.
And that's it. I've got all my stuff, camera, microphone, lights, to try to do the job from home for 3 weeks, starting now. Here in the Bay Area, we are preparing to be basically at home under this order, which lasts until April 7th. And that means no non-essential travel. Unless we are actively sick in some sort of emergency or have run out of food and must make a run to a grocery store, we otherwise have to stay at home. Essential services will remain open, grocery stores, pharmacies, but everything else essentially, bars, restaurants, gyms, all of that is closed. And that means we're all going to get used to life at home. We've been preparing here to be basically the educators of our own children. So we've come up with this little schedule: 8 to 9 a.m. movement, 9 to 10 a.m. Writing and literacy and reading, a snack, a playtime, movement, a meditation time, which we are all going to need. All of this is, us just kind of winging it. None of us are trained in my community, to do this kind of thing. We don't know how to stay home. The incredible pressure that we're all going to feel to remain in our houses, try to make some sort of meaningful life for our children while we're here, and most fundamentally to do whatever we can to not go out. All of that is going to be a tremendous challenge for people in this community. Right now, it's kind of cute. My kids have a nice little routine going. My wife is doing conference calls. But you cut to week 3 and, who knows how we're all going to be feeling about one another, much less what we're going to be eating. No, that's a no. Like 7 million other people in the Bay Area, we were trying to figure out what are we going to do with our time. And originally I had said, we don't need to worry about it, no big deal. We can just wing it. Well, no, my wife argued we need some sort of structure, and that has been the lesson of day 1. Maintaining a school-like schedule, negotiating with each other about who's on and who's off, and having those conversations clearly with everyone in the family, that might get us to day 21. This is our new reality. We're trying to homeschool our kids. My wife is somehow doing that while working her full-time job. We're trying to figure out, do we have enough food on hand? And the real question is, this is day 1. What is life going to be like here 21 days in?
And Jake joins us now from his home in Oakland, California. Jake, thanks for letting us in your house there and a little idea of what's going on. Yesterday, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said in a press conference that shelter in place could go in effect as soon as tomorrow here in New York City, 48 hours notice. How do you prepare for that?
For me, Dr. Torres, we really had no idea. Here in the California Bay Area, we have some sense of emergency preparation, right? In my backyard, I have a chest that has emergency equipment for things like fires and earthquakes, the things that we get here. But this idea that we were supposed to lay in supplies for several weeks at home is a whole new thing. I will say, when I compare how our experience has been to what I have read about life in Wuhan, right, where security guards were posted at the entrances to people's homes, keeping them from leaving or entering, where your phone was tracking you everywhere you went and telling you whether or not you were quarantined. Life is pretty loose here as compared to that. But certainly there is this order, right, the most strict in the country here in the Bay Area, that says you can't go out except for essential activities. Of course, here in California, we consider an essential activity to include exercising outdoors. We're allowed to do that, but we're not allowed to do it in groups. And doing so, they say under the order, is illegal. And so I think we're wavering on the edge here of a real need to lock it down, right? That is certainly what, we need to stop sort of exchanging air and exchanging, any sort of close contact, because that is the danger here. So the question is, this feels pretty tight to me, but is it too porous? Is it going to let too much through in the end? That's the big question for me.
And time will tell, but you described Wuhan, which is more of a lockdown situation. You're in a shelter-in-a-place situation. What's still open there?
Yeah, here, we have essential services, and that counts, there's a lot of things that fall under that rubric, it turns out. So grocery stores, pharmacies, they are still open. They're observing some strictures around how many people are allowed in at a time. So I just tooled around yesterday and saw that our grocery store had a line of several hundred people out into the parking lot because they're only letting in about 10 people at a time, right? So that stuff has changed, but it is still open. Hospitals are open, police departments are still open, all the essential services. But then you get into a sort of squishier category when it comes to things like ride shares. You are allowed to use Uber and Lyft, right, a ride share service, if you're going somewhere essential, but that puts those drivers in an impossible situation, right? Things like, going out for medical supplies, definitely still allowed to do that. Pharmacies, of course, open. Those things are all there, but gyms, restaurants, all of that done. It's not gotten so far as to actually shut down private vehicle traffic the way they did in China, but certainly the streets are very quiet. It's quite spooky walking around. My street, which has cars typically going up and down, didn't move much at all. In fact, when garbage trucks went by yesterday, I found myself deeply relieved by that, to know that sort of the systems are still moving. There's a real eerie kind of frozen in time quality to being here right now.
It's definitely a new normal if you're happy to see the garbage truck. But grocery stores, you mentioned they're still open. Is there anything to buy? Are the shelves empty like they are in a lot of places?
It seemed that the sort of the panic buying, and I got to say, I did this too. I immediately found myself fixated on the idea that I needed a chest freezer, right? One of those garage top-loading freezers, because I thought, I have to lay in a lot of food. And I may get one yet. They're sold out across the Bay Area. But then you look at it and you realize, no, actually the supply of food is pretty solid. We really do have a good supply of food. I mean, we live in California. It's the breadbasket of America. I think we're going to be okay on the food front. So the supplies seem okay. It's, for me, this larger question of, can we, right now, I think in the first few days, everyone's taking it pretty seriously. But I wonder, after a couple of days, maybe a week, 2 weeks, are people going to start to break out of it? We saw that. I was just reading a history of the 1918 flu epidemic that was specific to Oakland, a history specific to Oakland. And there was enormous uproar about the inconvenience of it, because for more than a month you had to wear a mask, you had to do all of these things. And so I wonder, are we going to continue to be able to do this without the sort of strictures that China put on its citizens? I certainly hope so. And certainly, I think we're trying to take it in the spirit of, we're very lucky. We have a house, right? We have a yard. We get along pretty well. We've got good food. All of those things, I think, are going to make it possible for us to do this in the long term. But certainly there's this psychological challenge. And for us, I mean, as you saw there, the thing for us we're learning is structure. Not just the structure of the day, the scheduling of the day, but also how you use the space. So I had my camera set up with lights and everything in the living room. We got into such an argument about it, because that's got to be sacred space when you're all going to be stuck in one place. So now I'm in the basement. This is the basement. If I spun the camera around, you'd see my laundry machine. You have to do that kind of thing, I think, to get us, to make us get along in these kinds of confined spaces for this amount of time.
And Jake, I want to thank you for giving us some insight into what could become reality for the rest of us, and giving us the time to show what exactly is going on in your house during your shelter in place. So thank you very much, Jake.
How this is going to work in New York, I have no idea, but I'm pulling for you.
I think we'll find out here soon.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.